Wednesday morning, JM in the AM. He is a member of the Yesh Atid party, and as far as I know, the second American citizen in Israeli history to become a member of Knesset. And he has been gracious enough to be a guest of ours before, and he joins us this morning live from Israel. Rabbi Dov Lipman, welcome back to JM in the AM.
Thank you so much for having me. Still a difficult day here, but we're trying to get back on our feet.
I can only imagine, and I want to speak about that, of course, and excuse my curiosities that it dominates the beginning of this conversation, but I never imagined that the head of your party, Yair Lapid, would be one of the most outspoken people when it came over the last 2 weeks to the issue of prayer and spiritual support for the boys. I'd love for you to address that, and as well, he actually spoke at one of the funerals yesterday, which I thought was a remarkable development. Could you address that for me?
Absolutely. Yair Lapid is one of the most, in my opinion, misunderstood personalities in the Knesset, in the government, and in politics in general. You know, there were a lot of raised eyebrows when I joined with the Yesh Atid and joined with him, and certainly many attacks, and those were based on the fact that people did not have the opportunity that I had to sit with him for hours and understand what a depth of Judaism there is to this man, a belief in God, growing up in a home where that wasn't surrounding him, and just one of the kindest souls I've ever met. And it oozes from him. It comes out in our meetings. It comes out regularly. There are policies that people have questions about, and I'm always open to answer them. But the mistake that people make is crossing over from policies into the person himself. So for me, it wasn't at any level a surprise at all. And I want to emphasize, the family asked him, each family was asked to ask for one member of the government to speak at the funeral. So in one, they asked for the defense minister. In one, they asked for the education minister, Shai Perron from our party. And then the third one, they asked, or the Sha'ar family asked for Yair. And the reason is so obvious to me that when he visited with them, they felt the care, they felt the nurturing. He didn't turn his visit into anything political, because that's the kind of person that Yair is, and therefore it was natural that he would speak. And I advise everyone to go on timesofisrael.com, and his hesped, his eulogy is featured there. He talks about the need for us to be together at this time, and at the end, he quotes the Ari HaKadosh. Those were his words, by the way. He wrote this eulogy by himself. The Ari HaKadosh, who says that I hereby accept upon myself the positive commandment from the Torah of love your neighbor like yourself. And this is Yair, and I'm happy people get to see it, and it's unfortunate that I have to take this circumstance to make it clear what kind of a person he is, but I'm happy that at least people get to see this side of him, and I have no doubt that there are many other misunderstood people as well, and it's just a matter of disconnecting sometimes politics from the person.
So he decided to end his speech with Hareini mikabel alai mitzvat aseh shel va'ahavta l'reacha kamocha v'hareini ohev et kol echad mibnei Yisrael k'nafshi u'me'odi.
His own decision. He wanted no one's involvement in the eulogy. When I heard that he was speaking, I volunteered right away. Do you need help at the religious ceremony? No, he's sitting down and he's writing this by himself, and that's what he did, and I didn't doubt for a second that it would be meaningful, and it touched the families on the deepest of levels, because here you see a person who's known in Israel as a secular icon in Israel, and yet you see the Judaism, you see the Gilad Sha'ar, you see the love of fellow Jews, and I will take the time for anyone who ever wants to hear more to explain that is the kind of person that Yair Lapid is through and through, and when he said that he took out a sitter and davened for the first time in 6 years, I want to just emphasize, it's not that it's the first time he prayed in 6 years. It's the first time that he looked for the sitter to actually daven one of the tefillos from beginning to end. And that's what he did at the moment that he heard about the boys being kidnapped.
I think someone actually suggested at the funeral that the Hareini Mikabel that he quoted be used at the beginning of every Knesset session, which, It was mentioned, I think, by the Rosh Hashiva, a wonderful rabbi from Makor Chaim, where the two of the boys are from. He did mention that at the funeral. I can say that
the 18 days really, you saw a side of Israel that unfortunately you don't see often enough. I disagree with people who said, oh, all of a sudden now we're unified and normally we're not. I actually believe that we're always unified, and Jews from all backgrounds will always be there to help other Jews. We have our debates and the like, but we mask the unity that's there, but I actually feel that it's always in place.
Member of Knesset Dov Lipman is with us live via telephone. So when you say that someone like Yair Lapid, and again, I don't want to really focus on him, but I think he's so emblematic of so much that we learned about the people who live in Israel, our wonderful brethren, over the last couple of weeks. There were many like him who reached for a Siddur or a Tehillim for the first time in God knows how long because of this episode. And you and I have seen from both this side of the world, and of course you being there now on the spot in Israel, have seen many attacks, unfortunately, and many really bad episodes over our lifetimes. Isn't it? Can you describe for us or explain to us why this one seems to have unified the Jewish collective heart like none other?
There was something about boys, excuse me for tearing up. There's something about boys on their way home from school and parents waiting for them, and you hear the audio today of the father, it's been released, the father calling the police, and you hear the concern, and it's something that touches every person as a person. It's not an army. Your son goes to the army, your mind is focused on the fact you realize it's a possibility that something can happen. God forbid. This is something just a regular place, never happened before in this kind of a way. And then I have to add to it the nature of the families themselves, who seem to have been handpicked by the Ribbono Shel Olam for this, who did not allow it to get into politics at all. We don't know anything about their political orientation, and they talked about it as mothers and as fathers, and they touched a part of the soul which raised up the nation. You saw it happening day by day as they took this with such grace and strength, and they raised everybody up. And I can tell you that that spirit is not going to go away so quickly. I walked around today in the Knesset with a printout of all the Masechtot in Seder Nezikin, and I went around and I explained to the secular members of Knesset what it means to learn Mishnayot in memory of someone, and obviously the religious ones understood. And we as a Knesset are going to learn all of Seder Nezikin for the Shloshim. And this includes not only religious parties, members of the Meretz Party are doing it, of the Labor Party, of the Hadash Party, Dov Chenin, and we're all going to learn Seder Nezikin together. I think everyone realizes that there's something deeper that unifies us. And even if it's not about Shmiras HaMitzvot, no one's saying that everybody has to keep the mitzvot, no one's forcing other people to keep the mitzvot, but that underlying covenant, the underlying spirituality which unifies all of us in terms of what kind of people we are, in terms of not accepting the kind of behavior of our neighbors and our enemies, that unified everyone together. And I think I can tell you that certainly sitting there on Sunday night at the rally in Tel Aviv and being there at the funeral yesterday, the love just oozed through the crowd, and all externals and ideologies fell to the side.
I know you're on a very tight schedule, so you'll just tell me when you have to go, but I got a few things I got to ask you. We like to point out, in light of, and you've been involved in a lot of these discussions, which I'm not going to get into now. It's not an appropriate day to ask you about these topics, but a lot of discussions that end with us and people like me saying that the greatest funder of Torah education in the history of the world is the State of Israel. And now I think we could add to that, the only governmental body on the planet that is actually making a commitment to Seder Nezikin would be the Knesset, the Parliament of the State of Israel.
I think it's very true, and I always say I wish people could see some of the things that I've been blessed to see behind the scenes here. In terms of, I'll just give you an example. Yair Lapid sitting with, and I won't mention a name just so I don't hurt his standing or the like, but with a member of the United Torah Judaism Party, sitting together over coffee, laughing with each other's jokes, asking questions about each other's children. There's a side of camaraderie which people don't see and people don't recognize, and unfortunately we take things to become personal. I think that's That's the biggest message. Disagreements, we're always going to have disagreements, and that's a part of who we are. In the time of the Gemara, it was Hillel and Shammai, or the Talmudim of Hillel and Shammai, and Abaye and Rava, and to understand that we'll have those disagreements, and everybody, in their opinions here, they mean it l'shem shamayim. The people who I disagree with ideologically, they firmly believe that what they're doing is best for Judaism and best for Israel with all of their heart and soul. It's not to destroy Judaism, and it's always important to separate between the personal and the political or the ideological. And unfortunately, I've learned in my year and a half, with all the emails that I receive and letters and even phone calls at times, that people aren't able to make that distinction, and that's a shame. And the point that you just made right now, that the state of Israel, despite whatever cuts were made, is still sending 500 million shekel a year, 500 million shekel a year to promote the learning of Torah. And to enable people to learn Torah is something which, without a doubt, not only has never happened in history, but it should be the focus instead of any of the negatives.
No question about it. Rabbi Dov Lipman, member of Knesset, Yesh Atid party. And you've always pointed out, by the way, that if someone like Yair Lapid had the opportunity to sit down with some of our Torah giants who represent the community of religious observance, if they had an opportunity to sit down and in a peaceful manner have a fruitful discussion, you believe that discussion would be very fruitful.
I do, and I'll even tell you that some of those types of conversations with representatives of some of those rabbinic figures have taken place, and there are understandings that have been come to, and that relates to the draft, by the way. Let me just give you just an example about that for a moment. 7 months ago, before we passed the law, the average person on the streets thought that the moment this law passes, there's going to be police going through yeshiva dormitories and dragging the yeshiva bachim to jail. That's what, by the way, on the day of the prayer rally in Yerushalayim, that's what young Haredi yeshiva bachim told me when I asked them, what did the law say? And that's something which I would be out in the streets demonstrating against, and being even stronger than they were in this rally. But this is not coming from a place of anti-Torah or trying to destroy Torah. It's coming from a place of trying to fix a very complicated situation. And Yair Lapid and Ofer Shelach and everyone else involved, and Yaakov Perry, they understand that there's a transition that has to take place, number one. They understand that not everyone is going to serve in the army. A majority might even not serve in the army. They understand that somebody who really is learning Torah day and night, really Torah to umnato. Torah to umnato, if you look at the Mefarshim and the Rishonim, some even say if Torah is your only occupation, you don't stop to put on tefillin. Right. You don't stop to daven. Someone who can't stop learning Torah, they agree that person should be learning, but we know that that's not the overwhelming majority, and there's a process going on in terms of integration into the army and the workforce and national service.
So maybe in light of this horrific tragedy, at the minimum, all of us should make a commitment to take one thing upon ourselves, that we'll stop using the expression that blank, whoever it is that we're referring to, whether it be right or left, is destroying Judaism. Maybe at least we should start with that in memory of the boys, that we're going to get rid of the really harsh rhetoric and try to at least understand where our brethren are coming from.
And that's what I think the mothers taught us. The mothers could have very, very easily slipped into all kind of political rhetoric. This happened because of this deal that was made in this year. This happened because of this politician who made this decision, or this defense minister, or this not giving budgets to here. They didn't do that for a moment. They valued every single person who came to show them love, that they welcomed them. I sat at the rally on Sunday night next to my dear friend, the health minister, Yael German. Yael German comes from a very secular background, politically very left-wing, very liberal. She's from the Meretz Party originally, and she said she couldn't not be there. And there we were sitting together while Yonatan Razel and a secular singer up on the stage singing the Yesh Atid and Ein Yush, and the two of us are down below singing that together and joining in. It's something where you realize that when it's all said and done, all we have is each other. I'm learning that more and more. I have a meeting with members of the British Parliament in an hour, and I'm going to learn that every time I meet with them, I realize all we have is each other. And the more we strengthen that, and yes, debate. We should debate. I'm open to talking to anyone about any topic, and I have a Haredim, for example, that come to my office all the time, and we meet and I explain, and we might disagree. but I guarantee you they walk out saying, he's not who I thought he was. And that no doubt applies to every single person across the spectrum, and I think that your idea would be the greatest source of merit for the boys.
Dov Lipman is with us from Israel. Was there, and again, I know we shouldn't get into the whole political thing, but I'm so curious. We know what the attitude has been now since the mid-'80s about exchanging prisoners for those who are being held by the enemy. We know that there was a tremendous change in the '80s, and that practice has basically gone on until these days. We know what happened with the Gilad Sha'ar case, and I'm sure both sides could debate that forever, whether it was a good idea or not. Would you say that behind the scenes, since this abduction and triple murder, that there's a different attitude, both in the State of Israel and in the Knesset, in terms of this whole notion, as people started to think whether there would be a proposal of prisoners for these boys?
There definitely has been a change, and there's two factors. One is what I tried to get out before, and it's not easy to talk about, just the idea of seeing how far it can go with these evil people and just taking innocent boys. That's one level. But another thing happened during these 18 days, and that is the announcement of the arrest of the murderers of Baruch Mizrahi,
right,
who was murdered on Erev Pesach, and finding out that his murderer was someone who was released in the Gilad Sha'ar deal, meaning for people to be able to see, and again, we don't blame the Shalit family
right,
for all of their efforts.
Correct.
We don't blame Gilad. We don't take it in that direction at all. But just in terms of taking a step back and seeing the direct line, wow, this person was released from our jails, stood on a street, on a road leading towards Hebron, and without ruthlessly shot bullets into a car filled with a family, and now there's a widow and orphans because of it. It definitely impacted people about this whole issue in general, and I think it's going to take some time to analyze all the political ramifications of everything that we've experienced. There definitely is a feeling, and I support this feeling, and certainly the ministers in our party, not to respond from the gut, not to respond from emotion, because you do that, we can end up hurting ourselves, or even worse, hurting soldiers and putting them in danger. But there are definitely going to be some strong decisions made, and I think that it absolutely will impact policy as we move forward.
I'll tell you, there are very few silver linings. Obviously, the unity was one of them, but very, very few. But when you think about, if in fact the boys would have been held, or the bodies would have been held hostage for any length of time, this debate again would have likely, I don't want to say torn apart the people of Israel, but certainly would have been a very sensitive issue, to say the least. So maybe there's a...
Absolutely, and I'm assuming that people in America know this, but just in case they don't, because obviously we wonder about the boys and their suffering and the like. And again, I'm not saying this with any level of happiness, and I can't even call it a silver lining, but they were not. They were not together with us in this world after about 5 minutes. Meaning wow. They were. It's very clear from all the information and all the evidence and the like that it was just a matter of minutes. And as a father of a 17-year-old boy, that's certainly an element which I thought about so much during these 18 days. Is what did they experience? What was it like for them? And that's something which I know provides some level of comfort for the families and for the broader family, which is all of Am Yisrael.
Yeah, I think all of us had our personal experiences. My 16-year-old was leading to Hillam. I'm thinking about the 16-year-olds who at that time we thought were being held by the enemy, and how interesting life is. With that in mind, by the way, there are a lot of people who are going to do this summer what you've already done, which is move from North America to the Holy Land. What do you say to people who... I don't know, may have become a drop more hesitant after this episode, and maybe may have dampened their great spirit of heading to the Holy Land as soon as possible?
I would tell them that if they could ask my 17-year-old son, who had his Tzav Rishon, which means his first appearance before the Army Board, to go into the Army, God willing, in a few years, who very much identified with the boys, whose good friend from Yeshiva was at the Trampiata, was at the bus stop with them, and experienced a lot of this almost firsthand. If you would ask him for a moment, despite everything you just experienced, would you give up on moving to Israel, and would you want to be living in America? His answer, without any hesitation, would be that Israel is where I belong, Israel is where Jews belong, Israel is where I feel closer to God, Israel is where I'm soaring in learning Torah, but also contributing to the Jewish people in ways that I couldn't do in other circumstances. That would be his answer. And none of these fears impact our thoughts about moving here. God willing, next Tuesday we're having a celebration in the Knesset, a reunion of my 10-year, my flight, my Aliyah flight 10 years ago. And if you told everyone in that room, it's just going to be a celebration of everything we've experienced and will experience, God willing, despite all of the challenges, and despite some of those fears, and despite the fact that there are missiles and there are terrorists, and there is nothing, there are really no words to describe what it feels like to be in the land that God has promised to you, that God says is your homeland. And I can say, as a member of Knesset, with all the disagreements and with all of the challenges that face us and decisions that we have to make, that's the greatest honor. It's the greatest honor to where we're sitting and helping to determine the Jewish future and the future of our land. And it's the greatest miracle that we're in this situation.
Finally, Dov Lipman, people are curious about the reaction from Israel. We know certain things have already happened, and the Israeli Air Force is taking care of things in the Gaza Strip when necessary. But in terms of a stronger or more direct reaction to what happened, can you give us a perspective on what we might expect this summer?
There's definitely going to be further action. Everyone has to realize that when people say, go into the Gaza Strip and root out all of the missiles and root out all of the evil, you're talking about our sons. You're talking about our sons going in there. I know that at the end of Amud Anan, for example, when we went in a few years ago and a decision had to be made, should we go in with ground troops or not, there are estimates, God forbid, of over 1,000 lives lost on our side if we would do that. It's complicated, but I guarantee you that every single member of the government, and I spent a significant time yesterday with two ministers yesterday, they are committed not only on the base level to punishing the people involved in this particular murder, but to go after the leadership of Hamas and to do what is necessary to try to bring life back to normal in Sderot and in the whole area of the South, where unfortunately people are suffering terribly, and it is a very difficult way to live. And the key is, like I said before, not to react from the gut, not to react from emotion, to sit with the experts on the Army, to sit with the security experts, including the Shabak, who have the information on the ground, and to make the best decision to provide security for the people of Israel. And I can tell everyone in America, yes, there will be further action, and that is what the goal will be.
Dov Lipman, I'm sure you'll see the families this week. The families of Eyal, Gilad, and Naftali. Please convey to them that the collective Jewish heart continues to grieve with them and shares a small part of this incredible agony that they're experiencing right now.
I will tell them, I will tell you that sitting with them on Sunday night in Tel Aviv at the big rally in Kikar Rabin, they kept saying to us as members of Knesset how much it means. And by the way, at that point, believe me, they knew that obviously everyone held out hope for a ending where the boys would come home alive.
They knew the news wouldn't be good.
They knew the reality that that's not likely,
right.
and they were taking it in, and it was like a collective hug, and it raised them up. They raised us up, but we also raised them up. And I will convey that to them. I'll be going, God willing, on Friday morning to two of the families, and then Motzi Shabbat to the third. And I will absolutely convey that to them, and I guarantee you that that'll play a huge role in their being consoled.
I thank you so much for joining us. We should speak on really wonderful occasions in the future.
Thank you. Amen. And B'sirot Tovot to all of Am Yisrael.
Wednesday morning, Rabbi Dov Lipman, member of Knesset, Yesh Atid party in Israel, and I appreciate his time this morning.